All right. Good evening, all. I'm here spontaneously. I had some time, and I had a request in the comment section of the last video that I made reading Anam um, to a reminder because I mentioned a story from the Hidden Life poem that I didn't actually get to. So I thought, well, I have a little bit of time on my hands and I'll just get this done. Because I mean, first of all, I would love to share it with everyone. It's very well, I think it's eye-opening and but it's also really just beautiful. So, I've got things set up here so I could share my screen, I'm hoping. Oh, look at that. I don't know how to Zoom, guys, so hopefully you can see that. I did put a link in the description for where I'm reading from. And then I'm going to read it on a bigger piece of paper or a bigger screen over here. And I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's very long. I read it once on Girl Country. If you go back in the archives, you'll find it. I didn't do a very good job of it. But I'm just going to read the parts. So what I was talking about in the Anam Cara video that I did was how he was changed by a chance encounter as a young man and remained single for the rest of his life. But this chance encounter changed his whole life. And I think the reason I was talking about it was because John O'Donohue talked about in a movie called Babette's Feast, there was an elderly man talking to a woman. I can't remember precisely, about how, he had fallen in love with her, but they never actually got to be together, but she accompanied him his whole life. That's what made me think of this, actually. So I'm just going to go ahead and start with, I'll give you a brief context. So he's a young man and he's going out to plow. He's not really keen on plowing, like every young man who has to do work on their father's farm. Not too keen on it. But he goes out and he does his work and he's heading home with his horses. And I'll start here. Till in the gloaming once again the plough lay like a stranded bark upon the lea. Lay like a stranded bark upon the lea, and home with hanging neck the horses went, walking beside their master forced by will. Then through the deepening shades a vision came. It was a lady mounted on a horse, a slender girl upon a mighty steed, that bore her with the pride horses must feel when they submit to women. Home she went, alone, or else the groom lagged far behind. But as she passed, some faithless belt gave way. The saddle slipped, the horse stopped, and the girl stood on her feet, still holding fast the reins. 3 paces bore him, bounding to her side. Her radiant beauty almost fixed him there. But with main force, as one that gripes with fear, he threw the fascination off and saw the work before him. Soon his hand and knife replaced the saddle firmer than before upon the gentle horse, and then he turned to mount the maiden. But bewilderment a moment lasted, for he knew not how, with stirrup hand and steady arm, to thrown, elastic, on her steed, the ascending maid. A moment only, for while she yet thanked, nor yet had time to teach her further will, around her waist he put his brawny hands, that almost zoned her round, and like a child, lifting her high, he set her on the horse. Whence, like a risen moon, she smiled on him, nor turned away, although a radiant blush shone in her cheek and shadowed in her eyes. But he was never sure if from her heart or from the rosy sunset came the flush. Again she thanked him, while again he stood bewildered in her beauty. Not a word, answered her words that flowed, folded in tones round, which dissolving lambent music played, like water, like dropping water in a silver cup, till round the shoulder of the neighboring hill, sudden she disappeared, and he awoke and called himself hard names, and turned and went after his horses, bending to his head. I always loved that part because he was speechless. He couldn't say anything. Ah, God, when beauty passes by the door, although she ne'er came in, the house grows bare. Shut, shut the door. There's nothing in the house. Why seems it always that it should be ours? A secret lies behind which thou dost know, and I can partly guess. But think not then the holder of the plough had many sighs upon his bed that night, or other dreams than pleasant rose upon his view in sleep within the magic crystal of the soul, nor that the airy castles of his brain had less foundation than the air admits. But read my simple tale, scarce worth the name, and answer if he gained not from the fair beauty's best gift, and proved her not, in sooth, an angel vision from a higher world. Not much of her I tell, her changeful life, where part the waters on the mountain ridge flowed down the other side apart from his. Her tale hath wild deep sighs on summer eves, where in the ancient mysteries of woods walketh a man who worships womanhood. Soon she was orphaned of such parent haunts, surrounded with dead glitter, not the shine of leaves in wind and sunlight, while the youth breathed on, as if a constant breaking dawn sent forth the newborn wind upon his brow, and knew the morning light was climbing up the further hillside, morning light which most, they say, reveals the inner hues of earth. Now she was such as God had made her, ere the world had tried to spoil her, tried, I say, and half succeeded, failing utterly. Fair was she, frank and innocent as a child, that stares you in the eyes, fearless of ill, because she knew it not, and brave withal, because she drank the draught that maketh strong, the charmed country air, her father's house, a Scottish laird was he of ancient name, stood only 2 miles off amid the hills. But though she often passed alone as now, the youth had never seen her face before, and might not twice. Yet was not once enough? It left him not. She, as the harvest moon, that goeth on her way and knoweth not the fields of grain whose ripening ears she fills, with wealth of life and human joyfulness, went on and knew not of the influence she left behind, yea, never thought of him, save at those times when all at once old scenes returned uncalled with wonder that they come, amidst far other thoughts and other cares, sinking again into their ancient graves, till some far whispered necromantic spell loose them once more to wander for a space. Again I say, no fond romance of love, no argument of possibilities. If he were someone, and she claimed his aid, turned his clear brain into a nest of dreams. As soon as he had sat down and twisted cords to snare and carry home for daylight use some woman angel wandering half unseen on moonlight wings or withered autumn fields, but when he rose next morn and went abroad, the exaltation of his newfound rank already settling into dignity. And this is my favorite part. This is what she does for him. He found the earth was beautiful. The sky, which shone with expectation of the sun, somehow he knew not how, was like her face. He grieved almost to plow the daisies down, something they shared in common with that smile, wherewith she crowned his manhood, and they fell bent in the furrow, sometimes with their heads just out imploringly. A hedgehog ran with tangled mesh of bristling spikes, and face helplessly innocent across the field. He let it run and blessed it as it ran. At noon, returning, something drew his feet into the barn. Entering, he gazed and stood, through the rent roof alighting one sunbeam, blazing upon the straw one golden spot. dulled all the yellow heap and sank far down, like flame inverted through the loose-piled mound, crossing the splendor with the shadow straws in lines innumerable. 'Twas so bright, the eye was cheated with a spectral smoke that rose as from a fire. He never knew before how beautiful the sunlight was, though he had seen it in the grassy fields and on the river and the ripening corn 1,000 times. He threw him on the heap, and gazing down into the glory gulf, dreamed as a boy half sleeping by the fire, and dreaming rose and got his horses out. God and not woman is the heart of all, but she, as priestess of the visible earth, holding the key herself most beautiful, had come to him and flung the portals wide. He entered in. Each beauty was a glass that gleamed the woman back upon his view. Already in these hours his growing soul put forth the white tip of a floral bud, ere long to be a crown-like shadowy flower. For by his songs and joy and ancient tales, he showed the seed lay hidden in his heart, a safe, sure treasure, hidden even from him, and notwithstanding, mellowing all his spring, until like sunshine with its genial power came the fair maiden's face, the seed awoke. I need not follow him through many days, nor tell the joys that rose around his path, ministering pleasure for his labor's meed, nor how each morning was a boon to him, nor how the wind with nature's kisses fraught flowed inward to his soul, nor how the flowers asserted each an individual life, a separate being for and in his thought, nor how the stormy days that intervened called forth his strength and songs that quelled their force, nor how in wintertime, when thick the snow armed the sad fields from gnawing of the frost, and the low sun but skirted his far realms, and sank early night, he took his place beside the fire, and by the feeble lamp, head book on book, and lived in other lives and other needs and other climes than his, and added other beings thus to his. But I must tell that love of knowledge grew within him to a passion and a power, till through the night, all dark, except the moon shone frosty o'er the lea, or the white snow gave back all motes of light that else had sunk into the thirsty earth, he bent his way over the moors to where the little town lay gathered in the hollow. So then the story goes into how he ended up going to school and being noted by the schoolmaster to be very smart. And then he was able to go to university, and there he was lauded as a genius, but he gave it all up and decided to go back to the farm and work because he wanted a hidden life. He wanted a simple life. And he ended up with tuberculosis and was dying. And when he was dying, and I got to find it here now, he wrote her a letter because he never forgot her. Just give me a second to find it. Well, maybe I'll just read this a little bit here. So now he's gone home and he's left university. He's gone back home to work on the farm. What of the vision now, the vision fair sent forth to meet him when at eve he went home from his first day's plowing? Oft she passed slowly on horseback in all kinds of dreams. For much he dreamed and loved his dreaming well, nor woke he from such dreams with vain regret. But saying, I have seen that face once more, he smiled with his eyes and rose to work. Nor did he turn aside from other maids, but loved the woman faces and dear eyes, and sometimes thought, one day I wed a maid and make her mine. But never came the maid, or never came the hour that he might say, I wed this maid. And ever when he read a tale of lofty aim, Or when the page of history spoke of woman very fair, or wondrous good, her face arose and stayed, the face forever of that storied page. And then they give a little history of her, how she fared in her life. He gives a little background. She met someone and wed and was a wife, but had a fairly I don't know. Maybe I should read it. I'll read it. Meantime, because it kind of goes back in towards the end when she gets the letter. Meantime, how fared the lady? She had wed one of those common men who serve as ore for the gold grains to lie in. Virgin gold lay hidden there. No richer was the dross. She went to gay assemblies not content, for she had found no hearts that struck with hers, sounded one chord. She went and danced, or sat and listlessly conversed, or if at home read the new novel, wishing all the time for something better, though she knew not what, or how to search for it. What had she felt if through the rhythmic motion of light forms a vision had arisen, as when of old the minstrel's art laid bare the seer's eye and showed him plenteous waters in the waste? If she had seen her plowman lover go with his great stride across some lonely field, beneath the dark blue vault ablaze with stars, and lift his full eyes to the earth's radiant roof, in gladness that the roof was yet a floor, for other feet to tread, for his, one day. Or the emerging vision might reveal him in his room with space compelling mind, pursue upon his slate with some planet's course, or read and justify the poet's wrath or wise man's slow conclusion, or in dreams all gently bless her with a trembling voice for that old smile that withered nevermore, that woke him, smiled him into what he is, or kneeling cried to God for better still. Would those dark eyes have beamed with darker light? Would that fair soul, all tired of emptiness, have risen from the couch of its unrest and looked to heaven again believed in God's realities of life and fact? Would not her soul have sung it unto itself, in secret joy too good for that vain throng? I have a friend, a plowman, who is wise and knoweth God and goodness and fair faith, who needeth not the outward show of things, but worships the unconquerable truth. This man loveth me. I will be proud and humble. Would he love me if he knew? So that's just a reflection on what's happening in her life. So they're completely separated from one another. Then he has to go out and do a big harvest and comes home sick, and then he just gets sicker. It's, I can't read the whole thing. It's just too long, but, I think you should read it. It's really beautiful. Let me just see where I am here. He also goes through a time of thinking, oh, I should write her, and he never does. And then finally he realizes he's not going to live much longer, so he does. I don't know where I should start. Sorry for the dead air. Okay, it's here. Okay, maybe I'll just read a decent amount and gives it some context. One night as oft he lay and could not sleep. His soul was like an empty, darkened room through which strange pictures pass from the outer world, while regnant will lay passive and look on. But the eye tube through which the shadows came was turned towards the past. One after one arose old scenes, old sorrows, old delights. Ah, God, how sad are all things that grow old. Even the rose leaves have a mournful scent, and old brown letters are more sad than graves. Old kisses lie about the fount of tears, like autumn leaves around the winter wells, and yet they cannot die. A smile once smiled is to eternity a smile no less. And that which smiles and kisses liveth still. And thou canst do great wonders, wonderful. At length, as ever in such vision hours, came the bright maiden riding the great horse. And then at once the will sprang up awake, and like a necromantic sage forbade what came unbidden to depart at will. So on that form he rested his sad thoughts, till he began to wonder what her lot, how she had fared in spinning history into a psyche cradle, where to die, and then emerge, what butterfly, pure white with silver dust of feathers on its wings, or that dull red seared with its ebon spots. And then he thought, I know some women fail and cease to be so very beautiful, and I have heard men rave of certain eyes in which I could not rest a moment's space. Straightway the fount of possibilities began to gurgle under his soul. Anon the lava stream burst forth amain, and glowed and scorched and blasted as it flowed, for purest souls sometimes have direst fears. In ghost hours, when the shadow of the earth is cast on half her children from the sun who is afar and busy with the rest. If my high lady be but only such as some men say of women, very pure, when dressed in white and shining in men's eyes, and with the wavings of great unborn wings around them in the ether of the souls, felt at the root where senses meet in one, like dim remembered airs and rhymes and hues. But when alone, at best a common thing, with earthward thoughts and feet that are of earth. Ah, no, it cannot be. She is of God. But then fair things may perish. Higher life gives deeper death. Fair gifts make fouler faults. Women themselves, I dare not think the rest. And then they say that in her London world, they have other laws and judgments than in ours. And so the thoughts walked up and down his soul, and found at last a spot wherein to rest, building a resolution for the day. But next day, and the next, he was too worn with the unrest of this chaotic night, as if a man had sprung to life before the Spirit of God moved on the water's face, and made his dwelling ready, who in pain, himself, untuned, groaned for a harmony, for order, and for law around his life. Too tired he was to do as he had planned. But on the next, a genial south-born wind waved the blue air beneath the golden sun, bringing glad news of summer from the south. Into his little room the bright rays shone. And darting through the busy blazing fire, turning it ghostly pale, slew it almost, as the great sunshine of the further life quenches the glow of this and giveth death. He had lain gazing at the wondrous strife and strange commingling of the sun and fire, like spiritual and vital energies, whereof the one doth bear the other first, and then destroys it for a better birth. And now he rose to help the failing fire, because the sunshine came not near enough to do for both. And when he clothed himself and sat down betwixt the sun and the fire, and got him ink and paper, and began and wrote with earnest dying heart, as thus. And now this is the letter he writes to her. Lady, I owe thee much. Nay, do not look to find my name, for though I write it here, I date as from the churchyard, where I lie, whilst thou art reading, and thou knowest me not. I dare to write because I am crowned by death, thy equal. If my boldness should offend, I, pure in my intent, hide with the ghosts, where thou wilt never meet me, until thou knowest that death, like God, doth make of one. But pardon, lady, ere I had begun, my thoughts moved towards thee with a gentle flow, that bore a depth of waters when I took my pen to write. They rushed into a gulf precipitate and foamy. Can it be that death, who humbles all, hath made me proud? Lady, thy loveliness hath walked my brain, as if I were thy heritage, in sooth, bequeathed from sires beyond all stories' reach. For I have loved thee from afar and long, joyous in having seen what lifted me by very power to see above myself. Thy beauty hath made beautiful my life. Thy virtue made mine strong to be itself. Thy form hath put on every changing dress of name and circumstance and history, that so the life, dumb in the wondrous page, recording woman's glory, might come forth and be the living fact to longing eyes. Thou essential womanhood to me, afar as angels or the sainted dead, yet near as loveliness can haunt a man, and taking any shape for every need. Years, many years have passed since the first time, which was the last I saw thee. What have they made or unmade in thee? I ask myself. O lovely in my memory, art thou as lovely in thyself? Thy features then said what God made thee. Art thou such indeed? Forgive my boldness, lady, I am dead, and dead men may cry loud. They make no noise. I have a prayer to make thee. Hear the dead. Lady, for God's sake, be as beautiful as that white form that dwelleth in my heart. Yea, better still, as that ideal pure that waketh in thee when thou prayest God or helpest thy poor neighbor. For myself, I pray, for if I die and find that she, my woman glory, lives in common air, is not so very radiant after all, my sad face will afflict the calm-eyed ghosts, not used to see such rooted sadness there, at least in fields where I may hope to walk and find good company. Upon my knees I could implore thee, justify my faith in womanhood's white-handed nobleness, and thee, its revelation unto me. But I bethink me, lady, if thou turn thy thoughts upon thyself, for the great sake of purity and conscious whiteness' self, thou wilt but half succeed. The other half is to forget the first and all thyself, quenching thy moonlight in the blaze of day, turning thy being full unto God, unto thy God, where shouldst thou quite forget the name of truth, yet thou wouldst be a pure, twice holy child, twice born of God, once of thy own pure will, arising at the calling of the Father's voice, doing the right with sweet unconsciousness, having God in thee, a completer soul. Be sure that thou alone, thou not the less complete in choice, an individual life, since that which saith I doth call him sire. Lady, I die. The Father holds me up. It is not much to thee that I should die. How should it be, for thou hast never looked deep in my eyes as I once looked in thine? But it is much that he doth hold me up. I thank thee, lady, for a gentle look thou lettest fall upon me long ago. The same sweet look be possible to thee forevermore. I bless thee with thine own, and say farewell, and go into my grave. Nay, into the blue heaven of my hopes. Then came his name in full, and then the name of the green churchyard, where he hoped to lie, and then he laid him back, weary, and said, O God, I am only an attempt at life. Sleep falls again ere I am full awake. Life goeth from me in the morning hour. I have seen nothing clearly, felt no thrill of pure emotion, save in dreams, wild dreams. And sometimes when I look right up to thee, I have been proud of knowledge, when the flame of truth, high truth, but flickered in my soul. Only at times, in lonely midnight hours, when in my soul the stars came forth and brought new heights of silence, quelling all my sea, have I beheld clear truth apart from form, and known myself a living, lonely thought, isled in the hyaline of truth alway. I have not reaped earth's harvest, O my God, have gathered but a few poor wayside flowers, harebells, red poppies, closing pimpernels, all which thou hast invented, beautiful God, to gather by the way for comforting. Have I aimed proudly, therefore aimed too low, striving for something visible in my thought, and not the unseen thing hid far in thee? Make me content to be a primrose flower among thy nations, that the fair truth hid in the sweet primrose enter into me, and I rejoice, an individual soul, reflecting thee, as truly then divine, as if I towered the angel of the sun, all in the night. The glowing worm hath given me keener joy than a whole heaven of stars. Thou camest in the worm more near me then, nor do I think, were I that green delight, I'd change to be the shadowy evening star. Ah, make me, Father, anything thou wilt, so be thou will it. I am safe with thee. I laugh, exulting. Make me something, God. Clear, sunny, veritable purity, of high existence, in itself content, and in the things that are besides itself, and seeking for no measures. I have found the good of earth. I have found this death. Now I am ready. Take me when thou wilt. He laid the letter in his desk with seal and superscription. When his sister came, he said, "You'll find a note there afterwards. Take it yourself to the town and let it go. But do not see the name, my sister true. I'll tell you all about it when you come." And as the eve through paler, darker shades insensibly declines and is no more, the lordly day once more a memory, so died he. In the hush of noon he died. Through the low valley fog he brake and climbed. The sun shone on. Why should he not shine on? The summer noises rose o'er all the land. The love of God lay warm on hill and plain. 'Tis well to die in summer. So there's that. There's a farewell song in a lowland Scottish tongue. If only Anselman was here to read that. Okay, so, and this is the closing part of the poem, and it's about the lady. What of the lady? Little more I know, not even if, when she had read the lines, she rose in haste and to her chamber went, and shut the door, nor if, when she came forth, a dawn of holier purpose shone across the sadness of her brow, unto herself convicted, though the great world, knowing all, might call her pure as day, yea, truth itself. Of these things I know nothing, only know that on a warm autumnal afternoon, when half-length shadows fell from mossy stones, darkening the green upon the grassy graves, while the still church, like a said prayer, arose, white in the sunshine, silent as the graves, empty of souls as is the tomb itself. A little boy who watched a cow nearby gather her milk from alms of clover fields, flung over the earthen dikes or straying out beneath the gates upon the paths, beheld all suddenly, he knew not how she came, a lady, closely veiled, alone and still, seated upon a grave. Long time she sat and moved not. "Greetin', sir," the boy did say, "just like my mither when my father died." I'm doing a bad job of this. And sign she raised and put at something sma, a glintin' gowan, or maybe a blade o' the dead grass, and glided silent forth over the low stone wall by two old steps, and round the corner, and was seen no more. The clang of hoofs and the sound of carriage wheels arose and died upon the listener's ear. Oh, hello. Yeah. Same. Glad you're enjoying it. Grizz. Yeah, so that's it. I don't know if I said this already, but I had somebody request it. And I just wanted to do that. It's beautiful. And, the wonderful thing about that part of it, well, I mean, it's the main body of the poem. It's the main reason for the rest of the poem. And you should read it. It's, like I said, the link is in the description. So, but it's an could I call it an admonition to both men and women, right? To live up to their calling, the divine calling from God that men and women have. And I love his letter to this lady. And I also love the fact that he leaves it a mystery as to her response, because we don't know anything about her life. He's guessing, but he's asking her to be the best she could be, right? So anyway, that's all I wanted to do. And thank you all for being here and for watching. Bye.